Okay, so what am I gonna do here? I'm gonna draw something. I don't know. Like this. Isn't that pretty? Like it's shiny. Now you know what it is. It's a diamond. Okay. So diamond, we is 100% carbon, and we certainly know at room temperature and pressure it seems to exist. It actually is not thermodynamically stable, but we'll get to that. And we know it's carbon. It's in fact sp3 hybridized. So we've got 4 covalent bonds, and they're all the same behavior. You know, in 2 dimensions, we would sketch it like this. We'd say, well, carbon's bonded to 4 other carbons, and that continues. But that is not, you know, that's 2 dimensions. We want to know what this looks like in 3 dimensions. And so we have this central carbon atom with 4 other carbons coming out of it, and four covalent bonds. And you know, we can create faces on that, if you will. In fact, let me draw that for you a little bit bigger. I'm trying to draw a tetrahedron. Okay, so tetrahedron is this 4-sided. Clearly, I'm not an artist. 4-sided. They're supposed to be all exactly the same shape, but this is a tetrahedron. Tetrahedra. So it's got 4 sides, and you know the positioning of atoms would be like got one right in the very center of that thing. Got one on each corner, and we've got a covalent bond between each. So that's the arrangement of bonds that we have. But our human minds, our human brains, sometimes like to make things a little bit simpler if we can to visualize. I mean, we could just say that's the structure of diamond and that repeats, but you can actually go to a few when you introduce a few more carbon atoms, you realize that there's actually a cubic symmetry to it, and that's nice because we like simple geometry. Um, oh, look at that! I broke my tetrahedron. All right, glue it back together. There we go. All right, so what I'm trying to do is I'm going to show you how this cubic symmetry exists. So here's a cube. We're familiar with this. We've seen this in face-centered cubic. We've even seen it in the rock salt crystal structure. And so what it involves is it involves an atom at each corner. All right, and I'm trying to draw here for you to depict that there's 1/8 of an atom at each corner. This is the back here now. All right, so there's 1/8 of an atom at each corner, and then there's atoms in face-centered positions. Okay, front face, top face, right face, but there's also, of course, the left face hidden, so I'll dash it in, back face, and the bottom face. And so that gives us 4 atoms in total. Okay, 4 atoms from the FCC positions. But we need more, and we need to find spaces where we can fit an atom where it will be touching 4 others. As this kind of a tetrahedral coordination, this 4 atoms nearest to it. And I think the easiest way to do this is actually just to show you, and then I'll try to go around and come back to it and show you different ways to visualize it to help make it more concrete. If you look at this kind of this region here of this unit cell, by this region I mean towards the bottom, okay, bottom half, towards the left hand side, and towards the front. Right in the middle of that bottom left front area is a space, and I could actually put an atom there, a carbon atom there, and then I could draw these bonds to that left side face, the front, the front bottom left, the front face centered, and the bottom face center position. Now, because of the perspective I've drawn this on, it's a little hard to tell, but that is in fact the same tetrahedral geometry that I sketched before. I could try. I hope this doesn't go too bad, but I could show you the faces here. Okay, and the last one is in there. There we go. Okay, so that is in fact a tetrahedral site. So it may be a little hard to tell that this is in fact the same tetrahedron as I had over here, but remember the angle that we're looking at is different. So this tetrahedron that I drew up here, if you imagine you kind of rotated that over so that this atom was in that corner, this one then maybe became that bottom face. You could have this atom taking that face position and this one here taking that left side face position. It is in fact the same. But let me show you some other ways to visualize that site, and then we're going to go back to create finally the entire diamond cubic crystal structure. So what I'd like to do next to better show you where that tetrahedral site exists, because you might not have followed this, and admittedly my artistic abilities are somewhat limited as hard as I try. If I cut this thing in half, okay, and front to back, I'm going to slice this cube in half. That's what I've done. And then I'm going to slice it in the plane of the page in half again. And then finally, in this horizontal plane, I'm going to slice it in half. So what have I done? I've now sliced it into 8 little, we'll call them subcubes. Okay, subcubes. That is, they're these little cubes, but they're smaller. They're within the original unit cell. I can dot in this top front right one here for you. I dot in the back so you can kind of see. Well, there's a cube. That's one of these subcubes. Okay, and in fact, in the very center of that subcube is this interstitial site that I'm talking about. So right in the very center of that front top right, label that so we're clear here, this subcube is towards the front, towards the top, and towards the right. Okay, it's opposite in the front plane from this bottom left front. So that's where that is, and then I draw the direction of contact again here. Maybe you'll see that it's tetrahedral a little bit more clearly. So that is in fact tetrahedral. I could try to make it into a tetrahedral solid for you by showing the triangular faces. Okay, so that is there you go. That's again the tetrahedral interstitial site. So, and I've actually drawn the alternating corners here on purpose because, in fact, for every carbon to be bonded to 4 others, we can only fill half of these subcubes. So there's 8 subcubes, but only half, that is 4 of them, are filled. A name for a space between other atoms is interstitial site. It's a little bit unusual to refer to an interstitial site in diamond because every atom is carbon. But if you start thinking about this as a space that you could fit an atom between others, it'll help you in other crystal structures that have some similarities to this. So let's continue on again. We've spent a little time on this, and I'm going to sketch for you another unit cell, a fresh one, and we'll go ahead and identify which ones have carbon in them, and then you'll know the diamond cubic crystal structure like the back of your hand. So here's a cube, okay, dash in the back for you there. And this time I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the subcubes for you as we did before. So I've got 8 little identical cubes making up the the larger unit cell. And what I showed you on the previous slide is I've got in this front bottom left a carbon, in the front top right is a carbon, and then what happens is these alternate in space so that they're spaced out as far apart as they can. That is, they wouldn't all four of them would not occupy the bottom half of the unit cell or the right side. They're going to alternate. So they alternate top to bottom, left to right here. Well, in the back of the unit cell, they're going to do the same thing. So that means the back top left site will be filled, and the back bottom right. So this is the back top left and the back bottom right will be filled. So they alternate. And a student a few years ago showed me a little trick that was useful for him. And if you if you picture those little subcubes, and what I do for you is I shade in the free surfaces of the subcubes that contain an occupied tetrahedral site. You'll see the positioning of the tetrahedral sites perhaps a little bit more clearly. So there you go. Those are the occupied tetrahedral sites, or the positions of those carbon atoms in amongst all the other carbon atoms in diamond cubic. And so finally what I'll do is I'll just position the FCC positioned ones for you. Okay, and back in that corner there, top, front, right side, and maybe for simplicity I won't, well, I can dot in the ones that are hidden. Okay, for completeness. So that is diamond cubic. And this tetrahedral symmetry is a really important one. It comes up in organic molecules. It comes up in many semiconductor devices. So understanding diamond cubic is a really good foundation for proceeding to other crystal structures and other structures.